Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe. Forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe, that will not murmur or complain beneath a chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempest rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then whatever may come, we'll taste and hear the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fitted for the sky, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my powers engage to do my Master's will. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live, and O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give. Help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely. Assured if I my trust betray, I shall forever die. Rise up, O men of God, have done with lesser things. Give heart and mind and soul and strength to serve the King of Kings. Rise up, O men of God, his kingdom tarries long. Bring in the day of brotherhood and end the night of wrong. Rise up, O men of God, the church for you doth wait. Her strength unequal to her task, rise up and make her great. Lift high the cross of Christ, tread where his feet have trod. As brothers of the Son of Man, rise up, O men of God. Good afternoon. Let's edify one another, shall we? It is indeed a wonderful day out today. Good to be back with you. I do apologize for being late today. We are only going to get a half hour in instead of a full hour. We have to acknowledge that due to technical difficulties. The first part, the technical part, being, of course, my computer being persnickety. I went through and did a cleanup on it, and in doing some of the tests and stuff that I do on an annual basis, it was taking 3 hours and was still not finished when I went ahead and canceled everything and said, oh, no. I thought it was about finished, and then I had another drive yet to do, and I said, nope, not going to do it. Nope, so we got that canceled. But then, as to the difficulties, well, I logged in, and CJ had a question he needed some help with. So hopefully we were able to give him a little bit of an answer, and now we're here. So let's edify one another as we jump right in to Genesis, and we get back to where we were at. As we left off at the end of Genesis chapter 7, we are beginning. Yes, CJ.
Sorry, do you want me to tag and share? Do you have somebody on that?
I do not. Liz is out in the kitchen making some cookies, and Ezra's busy in the living room. So, hello, Heather. Good to see you. Genesis chapter, we left off at the end of Genesis chapter 7. And as you know, that means that the flood is on the earth. CJ, do not blow up my phone. I'm in class. Shh. And we see that we talked briefly about how the windows of heaven were opened, the fountains of the deep were opened up, and there was a tremendous amount of water that was poured on the earth. In fact, it was so much water that 15 cubits upward above the tops of the mountains, waters prevailed and covered the mountains. So 15 cubits, you take 15 times, let's say 18, just for a regular cubit. And then divide that by 12. That would be over 22 feet of water, higher than the top of the mountains. Now, I want to point out that when we think about how much water that would be, we think of course, Mount Everest, the highest mountain, and think of how much water it would take to cover that. More than likely, and this is supposition, I will qualify that right away with that particular word, but more than likely, what you'd have is do not have the mountain ranges that we have today. And I'll explain why in just a moment. But you didn't have these tremendously high mountains until much later after the flood. And the reasoning behind that is, first off, we have all the dry land gathered together in one place. We didn't have continents as we have it today. All of it was in one area, according to Genesis chapter 1, as a matter of fact. If we look here, right here in verse 9, God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. So actually, technically, we have dry land all around the water. I guess is what it kind of looks like in that particular thing. So we have all the water under heaven gathered together into one place, and then you have dry land appear all around it. And God calls that dry land earth, and the water gathering together the waters he calls seas. So think of it this way. If God causes all the water to be gathered into one place, and it's surrounded by land, would you naturally have mountains? You would have a basin of water is what you would have, but not necessarily mountains. Now, they would have hills, they would have plains, but it's not a stretch of an imagination to look at this and say, okay, we're not looking at that huge Mount Everest style mountains. Now, the reason that I say that this didn't come until later is because what happens with the flood is unique. For here in where'd it go? There it is. Here in verse 11, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day, were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. So what do you have here? You have a release of tremendous amount of pressure under the ground, and you have a release of a tremendous amount of water coming down from above. What's that going to do to the land? Any ideas? Funnily, or interestingly enough, have you ever stood under a pressure washer or ever watched the effect of a pressure washer? If you take a pressure washer, if you take even a car wash wand or a hose with a wand, and you point it at the ground, what happens when you apply the water, the pressure of the water to the ground? It creates cavities. It pushes the mud backwards, doesn't it? Away from where the water is hitting. So when you have that much pressure being brought up out of the ground, what's it going to do to the ground? And what's going to happen to the land as it is being pushed backwards? Well, it's going to meet resistance, isn't it? And so what's going to happen in those resistances? We have what's called tectonic plates. What happens when what happens in the tectonic plates? You have shifts of the earth, right? In fact, in such areas like California, in one of the tectonic plates, what happens is what's called earthquakes. No, it's a fault line there. And what then happens, of course, is as the pressure and the land moves backward, it meets resistance, and the earth's quaking, and you have it moving up, and you have a steepling effect. Oops, I can't even stay on camera. You have a steepling effect of the land, which creates what? What happens when you push land against land? Yes. This is the church. This is the steeple. Open the doors and see all the people. No. CJ's laughing his head off back there. So, yes, you have mountains. And what's going to happen is what is essentially is going to happen is this is going to take time to happen. This is going to, these mountains, the pushing up happens over a period of time. And as a matter of fact, if you go and you look at the Google, the tectonic plates and things of that nature, what you're going to find is there's one in the Pacific Ocean where you have one plate overlapping the other. And every year, California gets closer to Japan. It's slight. It's very much. It's very unnoticeable, but it is happening in that regard. Now, that's the movement of the tectonic plates. So what we see then is that all the flesh died, 15 cubits and upwards. So we have 20. What did we say it was? 22 feet. Might help if I use the right finger on my. You have 22 and a half feet above mountains if we're using the 18-inch cubit. And all flesh died that moved upon the face of the earth, or upon the earth. Fowl, cattle, beasts, man, everyone died. And we talked, of course, last week about the cave in France where there is predator-prey relationship in that cave. The one's not eating the other in the fossilized record, but they're all in fear of their life. In fact, it is such that the fossilization, they died so quickly that they were able, that even the expression on their faces is evidently revealed. And what's also indicative in that cave in France is there's fish. And that cave is so far inland, that away from the sea, that there should logically be no reason why there are fish in that cave in the fossil record, except with the advent of a worldwide flood. Now, continuing on in Genesis chapter 8, let's see if we can get through this in our short period of time that we have. I was going to try to get through 9. We'll see. God remembers Noah, everything it's not that he had forgotten everything in the ark. It's just that how do I want to put it? It is that he makes provision for Noah. Hey, oops, forgot to click that. The idea, of course, is to mark or to make mention. He is mindful of Noah. He is still thinking about Noah. And everything in the ark. Now, remember this flood has been on the earth now for 140 days, 150 days. My apologies. I was off by 10 days. And so he then, in his planning for Noah, in his remembrance or his mindfulness of Noah, he causes this wind to pass over the earth and the waters to cease, to begin to decrease. The fountains of the deep, the windows of heaven, they were stopped. And the wind and the rain and the water was ceased. It was restrained. So the waters returned from off the earth. And after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. Now, 150 days, you remember there's 365 days in a year. So we're approaching the halfway mark, or half a year in the ark already. And what day was it that we were on when they came into the ark? Got to go back to Genesis. 600th year, second month, 17th day. So they were halfway through the second month of Noah's 600th year. And in the says in the 7th month and the 17th day. So we're now 5 months later. The ark rests on the mountain of Ararat. Mountains. Notice that it says mountains, not one single mount, but within the mountains, the range of mountains of Ararat. The hill country, the mountain, the range of hills of Ararat. People want to say, well, where, it was just on Mount Ararat, and that's not the case. It's within the mountain range itself. And that's that's what's led to a lot of the confusion, because no one knew exactly where it was. There's been a lot of speculation, and people have said, hey, we found it. And maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But after all this time, even the best of things is going to decay, or at least be fossilized. And the waters decrease continually until the 10th month. So here now, they've been in the ark 8 months out of the year. On the first day of the month, there were the tops of the mountains seen. So after the first day of the 10th month, they wait another 40 days, which basically means another month and 10 days by our reckoning. And that's when Noah opens the window of the ark, which he'd made, and he sends forth the raven, which went to and from, which went all over the earth until the waters were dried up from off the earth. Now, why didn't the raven come back? That's all right, Heather. I understand you're driving. Why didn't the raven come back? I got CJ here. He can type. He's sitting there listening pretty intently, or was, until he began looking at his Bible or his phone. I'm not sure which. Well, but why wouldn't it come back? The dove came back, that we see in just a couple verses. I mean, there's no place, there's no trees, there's nothing for it to land on, right? Okay. There's no shame in saying you don't know. If you don't know, that's fine. Don't be ashamed to say I don't know. Okay, it has to deal with the nature of the bird. What is a raven? On the earth, you have certain birds. You have birds that are seed eaters. You have birds that are bug eaters. You have birds that are carrion eaters. carrion, of course, being dead animals. A raven, well, sparrows sparrows eat seeds. Barn swallows eat bugs. Eagles and ravens, hawks, crows, and we could continue on like buzzards, etc., eat carrion. What is one thing you're going to be finding on a worldwide flood that kills every living creature on the face of the earth? Lots and lots of carrion. The raven didn't have to be fed anymore by Noah because there was plenty of food for it to eat. It didn't have to land on the ark because there was plenty for it to eat and for plenty of place for it to land. So the reason it didn't come back, the reason it was able to go to and fro until the waters were dried up from off the earth was because there was plenty for it to eat and plenty of place for it to land. Because it would just land on the dead bodies. Ooh, those are good. So, he also sends a dove out from him to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. I mean, the raven didn't come back, so he sends a dove out. But the dove, now a dove is a very neat bird, amazingly enough. We get, pigeons and doves kind of get a bad rap, but doves are rather neat freaks. And they're not going to land on carrion. They like to land on trees. They like to land on statues. We know what they do else on statues. But anyway, there went CJ. Now, it didn't find any rest for the sole of her foot, so she returns to the ark. What is a dove? It's going to be a seed eater. It eats seeds. It doesn't eat. It doesn't eat bugs. It doesn't eat carrion. So she comes back to the ark, and he puts forth his hand, and he takes her, pulls her into the ark. He waits another 7 days, and yet he sends out again the dove, and the dove comes to him in the evening, and whoa, hey, there's an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were off of the face of the earth. There was no more water covering the face of the earth. So he stays another 7 days, and he then sends forth the dove again, which never comes back. So in the 601st year, in the first month, first day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the face of the earth, And Noah then opens the door, looks out, behold, the ground's dry. And so in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dried. And God spoke unto Noah, saying, go forth from the ark, you and your wife and your sons' wives with you. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee, of all the flesh, both of fowl and of cattle, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, that they may breed abundantly in the earth, and be fruitful and multiply upon the earth. And that's exactly what Noah does. They take everything. What's the first thing that Noah does? Leaving the ark, what's the first thing he does? Offers a sacrifice. The first thing built in the new, clean earth is an altar. And he takes and he offers of every clean beast, every clean fowl, an offering, a burnt offering on the altar. But wait a minute, he couldn't do that. He's not a Levite. So the Lord smells that sweet savor, and he says in his heart, I will not again curse the ground anymore for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more every living thing as I have done. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. Here we have that's right. If it was the thing, that he would be in trouble, wouldn't he? Thankfully, it wasn't yet there, huh? God stops the curse of the ground. Now, some people want to debate me on that, but he says, I will not again curse the ground anymore, which says in any way, any language that you read it, that the curse is done. Now, the effects of the curse that God placed upon the ground for Adam's sin back in Genesis chapter 3, they're still being felt, aren't they? I mean, we still have thorns, we still have thistles, we still have to plow and to till by the sweat of our brow. The effects of the curse are being felt. But the curse itself has ended. And God says, I'm not going to curse things because of man's sin. It kind of goes back to the idea that God would later say in Deuteronomy, where did that go? I need my other Bible. Kind of goes back to what Moses said later when he said that basically I'm not going to, or God says that that he's not going to punish the son for the sins of the father, nor the father for the sins of the son, but everyone's going to be accountable for their own sin. CJ asks about Romans chapter 8, verses 20 through 22. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who hath subjected the same in hope, because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. I would believe, I would be hesitant to say that you're looking at it as a creature as of beasts, when you might possibly be needing to look at the creation, or rather man. But if we were to look at it as creature, who was given dominion over the earth? Man is, right? So all of creation is under the dominion of man. It was made subject to vanity, to man. Not because of their will, but because of, he who hath subjected the same in hope, as in God. But because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption. Well, that's, again, when we sin, CJ, we become essentially servants or beasts, if you will, to sin, slaves of sin. No difference, no better than the beast, in one sense of the word, because we're kind of mindless slaves of sin, always fulfilling its desires until we come to a knowledge of the truth. And we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. So we're still looking at it as though as a comparison between the sons of God and the sons of men, or the creation or the creature, is indicative of the wickedness of those of unrighteous people. Is what I would say would be playing into that. And yet, yes, the whole creation groans and travails in pain, because who is it that is in charge of creation? It's man. And boy, what a fine mess we've made of things, isn't it? We kind of always, we kind of tend to make a mess of things. That's why God had to send his son to save us. Amen. So now, there are people who want to try to take this and say that man is inherently evil from the womb. And that is not at all what this is saying. Man's imagination, the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth, is not the same as saying man is completely sinful or totally depraved from the minute that he is conceived. A baby has no imagination. He has 3 driving principles: eat, sleep, and mess diapers. You like how I put that? And it's wash, rinse, and repeat. So to say that the imagination of man's heart, that man is totally depraved from birth or from conception, is a wresting of the scripture and making it mean something that it does not mean. So the Bible is very specific. It says the imagination of men's hearts. If we were to look at this in other renditions, again, it's still the imagination of man's heart. ESV says intention of man's heart is evil. Well, what is a baby's intent? Eat, sleep, and mess diapers. I know this. I've raised 5 kids. They have no other intention. The word imagination here, purpose, imagination, device. Hello, Teresa. So the device of man's heart is evil from his youth. And again, youth here is of, did I get the right one? Nope, I got the of. Got to get the right one. There we go. Youth of his early life. Childhood. Juvenility. Well, juvenility, that's typically, anything under the age of 18. But when we look at it from the idea of the Hebrew, well, that's pretty much the idea of a child that is learning to be naughty. Not of a baby. Not of someone whose only intention is to eat, drink, and, eat, sleep, and mess diapers. And as he grows or she grows, they're learning of the world and coming to a knowledge of good and evil. And God says, while the earth remains, seed time, harvest, cold, heat, summer, winter, day and night shall not cease. And this we have in a measure of comfort to us. So long as the world is here, every day that we've been granted to us, it's going to remain. Hello, Debbie. In fact, there are some that have carried that argument out to extreme and have become scoffers, saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. Well, you see, they're saying, well, it's still happening. Seed time and harvest is still going on. Springtime and winter still going on. Cold and heat, it's still going on. Day and night still going on. So where's his coming? Well, they're ignorant that the Lord of time, the one who created time, is not bound by time, but is waiting for all men to be saved, come into repentance. So all y'all are coming in late. At the tail end of this, I was late. Y'all are even later. Or you're early for reading. Either way you want to look at it, it's still good. We're glad to have you here. I did get through one chapter, CJ. Oh. We did make it through Genesis chapter 8, even though we started half hour late because of computer problems. It's still going to happen. Global warming is a flop, Debbie, because hot and cold is still going to happen.
And then you have CJ problems after that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have computer problems and CJ problems.
Yep. Technical difficulties. Technical and difficulties. Anyway, I was helping CJ with a problem, and I had technical difficulties. So, but we made it through another half hour, and if we had had another half hour, we would have made it through chapter 9. I hope and pray that you have been edified through our study of Genesis today, and we shall return again at this time next week. Actually, a whole hour earlier than this time, but anyway, provided the Lord wills that we make it through that time. Man, those are good. A little hard, Alicia, but they go great in coffee.
They probably go good in coffee.
I just said that.
Oh, I didn't get it.
She made some almond cookies. I guess it's 3 ingredients. You take almonds and process them up and add a couple other ingredients and bake them. Yummy. Anyway, hope and pray you've been edified through this. time together. And as we go through into next week, please read Genesis chapter 9 and chapter 10 and have some questions ready, and hopefully we can answer those next week. And until then, make sure that you're doing plenty of studying to show yourself approved. I'll see you then. God bless.